You guys heard about $70 video games, right? We all heard about $70 video games. Well, we're already thinking about $80 video games now. And Borderlands 4 might indeed be $80. Fuck that? Well, what they say is fuck you.
That's it. I'm going to get one of those signs that sits behind me that says 0 days since last industry controversy. Yep. I have never seen so many companies so ready, so willing, such in a rush to try to give players more reasons not to buy their games. I sit back and I read some of this stuff and I'm just like, why can't you guys be normal just for like a week? Now we have CEO Randy Pitchford coming forward to say that real fans will be able to find a way to buy their games for $80. Brushing off.
Only the real fans are going to be able to spend $80 on our looter shooter slop game with millennial humor and mediocre graphics and below average gameplay. That's only for the real fans.
Price increases, and then also turning it into a fandom purity test. That is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for you. Too many times these publishers and studios are betting on blind consumerism.
Yeah.
And time again, they are proven wrong. They do not.
It's basically like the AAA game industry. Their business model is that people are retarded. And they hope that if people are dumb enough, that maybe they can make money off of them. That's what it's all about.
Realize how far their actions and their words travel. Every cash out and every crash out, it's costing them. It's costing them dearly. So today what I want to do is I want to give a lesson on brand economics. As a fan, Randy, we're going to talk about how your brand influences your financial performance and ultimately your future. Because Borderlands 4 is not the kind of game that I would just assume everybody's going to buy, regardless of how much money they have or how big of a fan they are, or better yet, used to be. With both Nintendo and Xbox increasing their prices up to $80, it's expected that other publishers will fall in line soon. And most players are already wondering which games are going to be the next ones to make the jump.
Here's the problem is that a lot of these games, like, they're just not worth $70 or $80. That's the big issue, is that Randy's right, but Randy's not making Elden Ring. You're not making Baldur's Gate 3. You're making another looter shooter.
And executives have already weighed in on the topic, and in a surprising twist, EA CEO Andrew Wilson had already stated that they have no plans to raise their prices at this time, regardless of...
Well, yeah, because you have a million fucking microtransactions and you're farming 5-year-olds with FIFA gambling. Oh, yeah, you don't need to raise the price.
Does.
What a surprise.
That statement alone tells you how volatile this topic has become. Players are becoming more price sensitive by the day, not just because of inflation, but because the price of games already went up less than 5 years ago from $60 to $70 and now to $80. 2 points on a graph is a coincidence, but 3 is a trend. At this rate, people aren't worried about this price hike. They're more worried about the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why when a fan replies...
Yeah, it's like if games are going up this fast in price... Who's to say in 5 years games won't be $120?
To Randy Pitchford on Twitter with a friendly warning,
it
resonated. He said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant price increases. You're the CEO. You have some say when it comes to your publisher. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't aggressive. Just a reasonable concern from someone looking forward to Borderlands 4 and worried about the fact that it might cost too much. And in response, Randy Pitchford delivered what might be the single worst way to answer a paying customer.
No, it's not. It's not even remotely close to the worst way. There's like way more stupid ways of doing this. Yeah, we've seen way worse, okay, guys?
It's not my fault. And B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school, working minimum wage in an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach. And I found a way to make it happen. Right, because nothing says love for a franchise like quietly accepting predatory pricing and bending over at the cash register.
Well, it's also because back then there weren't a bunch of other games at really high quality. That's the other thing, is that whenever you're existing in a market that's really competitive, you have to do something in order to make yourself stand out. So there's two ways that you can make yourself stand out with video games. You either make a really good game or you make your game really cheap. You have Vampire Survivors or you have Elden Ring.
Imagine thinking that fandom is
That's
only
it.
defined by how much financial discomfort you're willing to endure.
Yeah.
This isn't just tone deaf. This is loyalty tax disguised as nostalgia. So let's break this down. A multimillionaire CEO in 2025, during an era of a housing crisis, inflation, and mass layoffs, is telling players that if they really cared, they would just behave like he did in 1991 when a game still had a...
You just gotta go. You gotta understand that, brother. You go into the store and you ask to speak with a manager, and you gotta give him a firm handshake and give him your resume in person. That's how. So back in 1974, I got my first job doing that, and that's all you need to do. All right. Yep.
Physical resale value, didn't have season passes,
Jesus.
deluxe editions, microtransactions, or day one DLC. This
Yeah.
isn't PR. This is financial cosplay. He's not relating to players. He is romanticizing economic struggle just to justify an $80 video game. That game that he bought in 1991,
It's too much
it didn't
money.
come with a deluxe edition, 4 expansion passes, and a 6-month roadmap. You bought it, you played it, you were done with it. So that's not so different from what Borderlands 4 is going to be today.
Here's another component. College, housing, food, and other expenses back then were not rapidly increasing beyond the rate of inflation even at the same time that the amount of money you're making isn't going up at all. So the issue isn't that, so like here's a, like let's say this is let me go back. This is your money, okay? So this is all of your money. Well, what's happened is that people have been eating into this money. And these circles that used to be this big are now this big. And so you have, for example, food, school. Let me move this over. School. And then you have, let's see, a cell phone. And then let's go ahead and let's do another really big one, right? And let's see. This is obviously rent, mortgage. Yeah, mortgage is that? Yeah, this is T. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, and so like now, like the amount of money that people have has become like much more minimal. So the issue is that back then you had proportionally more disposable income because you didn't have all of these extra expenses. And the price, like for example, like look at the price of tuition for college. And the price of tuition for college, this is the issue that a lot of people, like, I think Randy doesn't really understand this because it's like a third order effect, and he's not part of this generation. But this is what happens to a lot of people that go to college, is that they take out a tremendous amount of money in student loans. And the majority of people that play Borderlands 4 are millennials. These are going to be people within the ages of probably like, I don't know, like it's like 28 to like 40, right? And maybe 20 to 40. Let's say like this age group. These people they basically had to make a Faustian pact with the government and say that no matter what, I'm going to pay this ever increasing amount of money back in order to attain this degree that's going to get me a rapidly decreasing in value job. And so this is what happens to these people. They're getting spawn camped. Yes, they are. And they've been groomed into this, right? They've been groomed into this by adults for their whole life. You can't blame a kid at 18 years old after they've spent 12 years in school being told if you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. You can't blame a kid for taking that risk when they've been groomed into that decision ever since they could exist and even think for themselves. And so the big problem is that a lot of these new costs, Randy might not really be aware of. Like I had a friend of mine, like for example, this is just a personal story. I'm sure. Tell me if you guys, this story either resonates with you or with a friend that you know. I had a friend that got a degree from UT, and he got a degree in theoretical physics. Well, it turns out that got him a theoretical job. So he had to go and get a real degree in mechanical engineering. And so after he got that real degree in mechanical engineering, he had over $100,000 in student loan debt. And like obviously, like he now, I mean, I think he's paid all that back, right? He's and like keep in mind, like he was like a top 5%, top 1% person whenever we went to school. Like he was in like honor roll. He was, like had like almost 4.0 GPA. Very, very smart. He's smart in some things. Like he was good at doing assignments in school. Okay, and he's a smart guy, to be fair. And anyway, he's a nerd. Yeah, it's my boy, right? I mean, we play Magic the Gathering together, and every day. We grew up together, and so like he made the money back, and like so like he's he's fine, but he's the minority, right? He is a hyper minority of people that was able to secure a 6-figure engineering job that now, and also he works his fucking ass off. Like he has to wake up at like 5 a.m. or something like that. Like it's like 5 or 6 a.m, and he doesn't get home until like 6 or 7. It's insane. And so this guy works his fucking ass off, and like, yeah, he can make the money back. But think about how many people can do that. How many people do that, and they don't even have the money to pay off those student loans. So what Randy doesn't understand, sorry, I'm going off on a big tangent here, is that nowadays you have so many people that are eating into your money cookie that there's only crumbs left. And so you can't use 1991 logic anymore because we're not in 1991. And I understand inflation causes the price of video games to go up, and I get that, but to say that in a vacuum is tone deaf. I think the fact is that like whenever we're really old, we are going to lament the times that video games were only $100. I'm being serious. One day that will happen, but it's happening too fast right now.
And that's exactly why this pricing conversation deserves a little bit more care. So no, Randy, your story about saving up while working at an ice cream parlor doesn't justify $80 digital video games. It makes you sound like the kind of guy who thinks eating ramen to afford loot boxes builds character. Pitchford is right about something.
Oh, God. Gotcha logic.
Fans will find a way, just not the way that he's going to want them to. They'll wait for a sale, or they will skip it entirely. Some of them are just going to pirate it out of spite, and they're going to do that guilt-free because, unlike Randy, they're not going to be assigning moral weight to a price tag. The best part of this is that other studios picked up on this sentiment. Devolver Digital fired off a surgical strike.
I wish that Devolver made games that I liked more because I love Devolver. I love their events. I think that like their vibe, like they're one of my favorite publishers. And I just wish they made more games that like that I would be like, oh my God, I really can't wait to play this.
Twitter saying that you're going to be able to buy Mycopunk for you and 3 of your friends for the price of 1 copy of Borderlands 4. Mycopunk, by the way, is this slick-looking FPS PvE horde shooter that has a demo that's out right now.
Am I crazy for thinking that like this and Borderlands are basically like I don't like this looks fine. Like Borderlands looks fine. Like it's the same thing. Like yeah. This is the problem that I think these people don't realize. Like with Unreal Engine and the other types of advances in technology, these AAA studios are not creating anything special by having good graphics anymore.
By the way, you can probably play that with friends for like 100 hours completely free. Pitchford, not wanting to take the L, retweeted Devolver Digital's post with this bizarre response. Mycopunk is cheaper than 1 point of meth, probably has fewer side effects too. What does that even mean? And now this whole thing is just going to be remembered as 2025.
Well, what does that mean? That means that back in 1991, that wasn't all Randy was spending his money on. Yeah, I say that it wasn't just those Sega games, bro. Like he spent his money on all kinds of shit.
Don't you guys have phones moment? Or maybe EA's, it's not gambling, it's surprise mechanics. Another one of those tone-deaf executives that are trying to make a point only to remind players, well, they stopped trusting these people in the first place. Funny enough, before this happened, Pitchford actually addressed the pricing concerns at a recent Borderlands event. He had said that
I feel bad for Randy in a way, because Randy is right that he is in a place where his hands are tied because publishers generally decide the prices of video games. So he's put in a position where he effectively has to tank the decisions of another person. But I also am not sure like how much of this he's really pushing back on privately at all. Because obviously, like, if I was publishing a game, theoretically, imagine if I published a video game, you know, and the developer wanted to price it at a lower price point, I would probably try to work with the developer and do something that they want. Especially if I'm trying to make a business relationship with this person that's going to last for 20 or 30 years.
Know if Borderlands 4 was going to follow Nintendo or Xbox's pricing,
just smart.
reiterated that it wasn't his call, and then added on that this game's budget is more than double that of Borderlands 3. But he finished by saying that he believes in this game, that it's great, and that it will deliver at any price point. And honestly, it might, but that's not the issue anymore. The sad part is...
No, it won't. It's too much. It's just too much. $80 for a game is too much for something like this in a market that's too oversaturated. Sorry. I mean, if you want the truth, I mean, look at the First Descendant. I mean, the First Descendant, I think, in a lot of ways, has cleaner and better gameplay than it looks like Borderlands does. I'll be honest, I think it does. So, like, why would I not just play that? They lost a lot in the movie.
This didn't have to be a controversy. If Pitchford just said what he had said at the event, or better yet, said nothing at all, the conversation would have moved on. Maybe people would have grumbled about the potential price hike. Maybe they would wait for a sale, but that would have been the end of it. Instead, he gave players another reason not to buy his game. One that has nothing to do with the price tag and everything to do with the person behind it. And that's
I think also there's a big component to it where, like, a lot of consumers don't want to spend money on expensive games because they're worried that by doing so, they will create an ecosystem where those games are allowed to grow and get more popular and make money. It's like you don't want to reward a behavior that you don't want to continue.
The problem is not just about the $80 price tag. It's about the arrogance, the entitlement, and the complete lack of understanding about how players actually think. Pitchford turned what could have been a calm, consumer-level concern into a loyalty test. He didn't just defend the price, he turned it into a challenge, a line in the sand. And this behavior isn't rare anymore. It's become a pattern.
It's patronizing, and I think that it's especially patronizing to young people whenever they see people that are older who grew up in an economy that they felt like, that at least young people from their perspective, that economy was like more rewarding and, you know, people had more of a chance in it. And then to have somebody from that culture come and like talk down to them about selling a product to them, that's going to immediately trigger the fuck out of people. They're going to be mad as fuck about that. And it makes sense. The door is shut behind them. And I think they're right. I do. I think all of these like teenagers and college students and stuff like that that want communism, I think that they're wrong that that's the solution, but they're right that there's a problem.
Across the entire industry.
Huge problem.
We've seen this time and time again, developers and executives who either don't understand the weight that their words can carry, or worse, they think that they're untouchable because of their titles. They treat their personal social media accounts like it's a diary, forgetting that everything they say reflects back on the studio, their coworkers, and the game that they are trying to sell. And when those comments backfire, the damage doesn't just hit them alone, it hits everybody around them.
Yeah.
Just look at Helldivers 2, that game had
This is another really big component, is that when a person at a studio says something, like another great example of this was Matt Hansen from the Avowed studio Obsidian, is that when he started making all of these statements about how Elon Musk was bad and he was putting in pronouns in the game and like all this other weird like alienating political language, that kind of stuff hurt the entire studio and it damaged the whole game. And so when you can't keep your mouth shut and then you negatively affect a product in a massive way, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting everybody around you. If I was CEO, I would have fired him. No, the reason why they didn't fire him is because the CEO and the people at the company probably agree with him. That's the reason why. And I think that's one of the reasons why people lose trust in these development studios, because you're right. I mean, if he had said the same thing about black people that he said about white people, everybody knows that he'd be out of a job in a day. But the reason why he didn't is because of this double standard. And I think that people resent that double standard. They see it. It's obvious. You can't tell people it's not real. And because of that, you have people that just massively lose trust.
Explosive launch, even with matchmaking issues, bugs, and crashes, players still stuck around because the developers felt like they were connected, passionate, and engaged. But once the first balance patch hit, well, the Reddit post started rolling in, and then one of their developers openly admitted to antagonizing the fans for their own entertainment. Discord mods started banning people using clown emojis on furry art. Then came the now famous "I thought you were refunding the game and leaving" post from one of their community managers during the Sony account linking disaster. It does not matter how good the game was.
The real problem there, in my opinion, was the Discord moderators, and I actually don't mind when a developer is snarky or rude to an obnoxious fan. It's like that Marco Pierre White thing, where it's like some guy is snapping their fingers, telling me what to do, like acting weird, coming in late for dinner. You said you'd be here at 9, it's 9:40, and you just got here. What the fuck is this? Like, nah, get the fuck out. And so, like, I very much dislike the idea that, companies should be punching bags. I really dislike that idea. But at the same time, it was the Discord mods that they had a bunch of furries and weirdos that wanted to put weird shit in Discord and this is for Helldivers. It's for a fucking video game. It was so weird.
The trust was gone. It
And
took
they didn't even
nearly
get rid
a
of
year
it.
of them replacing staff,
Yeah.
rebuilding goodwill, and delivering real updates for them to be able to recover that audience that they once had by default. Or go look at Starfield. That game's reception was already shaky, but whatever sympathy Bethesda had left had evaporated by the time that their narrative lead, Emil Pagliarulo, logged on to scold players on Twitter saying that they don't understand how hard it is to make games. Instead of just listening to players about what they actually wanted, freedom, personality, a reason to care.
The funny thing is, Emil wasn't completely wrong, but it doesn't matter whether he was wrong or not. That's what these people don't understand, is that you don't negotiate, you don't guilt trip the customer. That doesn't work.
He guilt tripped them as if emotional manipulation
Exactly. That's what you don't do. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
could patch out a lack of meaningful content. Guess what?
I remember
It
that.
didn't work. Avowed, Concord, Starfield, Helldivers 2, the list goes on. Different games, different studios, same exact problem. Developers treating players like obstacles, personal politics, and petty grudges.
I really like the fact that he said that. Developers that treat players like obstacles. That's exactly the way that I feel. That's a great way to put it.
Overriding professionalism, and every single time the exact same result: disappointment, backlash, silence, and loss of players. That's what makes this all so frustrating. It's not about just one quote or one tweet or one tone-deaf reply. It's about a pattern. These companies are already asking players to pay more than ever. And when the people that are representing those companies act dismissive, snide, or outright combative, it just gives players a very easy reason to just walk away.
Well, it's also, again, like, I really think that we need to talk about the class dynamics in this. You have an older man who enjoyed the privileges of the perceived better economy that is now a multimillionaire that is patronizing younger people trying to buy a product, telling them that, oh, you'll find a way to make it work just like I did. I think that really, really rubs people the wrong way. The same as, if you're a broke boy, just say so. It's the exact same thing. And it's not, and it's really class. Like, obviously, generations matter. Like that, like it's an older person talking down, and so it's like a perception of a different economy. But people feel the same way about streamers. Like they do, of course, right? And this is like, for example, like whenever, I don't really sell merch or anything like that. But I remember like OTK got negative feedback with certain things that we've sold. Like they said, oh, this is too much money. And it's like Starforge is a great example. When I was involved with Starforge, on day one, day one was the worst day of that company. No, that's not true. The worst day of the company was probably the day that Trump announced the tariffs. The second worst day of the company was probably the first day. And so, that was second, because a lot of people were very, very negative about it, right? And they hated it because we had an i3 processor, and like we sat down, and I remember it was an all hands on deck. Like Charlie was there, Schlatt was there, Tips was there, like all the guys from Starforge was there, I was there, S-Fan Nick was there, everybody was there, right? And we decided that day, we made the decision, the customer is always right. And it doesn't matter what we think the value proposition is. If we're selling this product and the consumer doesn't think the product is valuable and they don't think that it's good, then that is the bottom line. one of the best decisions we made. And that's it. And it's the same as we made decisions with, like, in the EU. Like, we charge higher prices in the EU because we thought it would be better for consumers to give them the upfront costs rather than have it be a surprise when they pay for it at customs. It's, again, and the reason why, it's about respect. It's about respect, and it's about being able to understand your consumer and treat them like you're trying to help them. That's the goal, right? You're trying to create, like, because again, you take a step back, fundamentally, 95% of business, if not 100%, is about solving someone's problem. My problem is that my hair is too long. Okay, well, I need to go to a barber. My problem is that I'm bored. Okay, well, I'm going to go to a movie. My problem is that I'm hungry. I'm going to go to the grocery store. My problem is that I, want to exercise. I'm going to go to CatDany and buy a set of weights. So whenever you look at it from a perspective of, like, solving a problem, you understand that as a business, your business is to serve. It's not to order people around. It's not to tell them what to do. It's not to patronize them. It's to serve them. And if you can understand that concept, you can do business in a way that's not toxic. And that's what so many of these developers just don't seem to understand. And so many businesses don't seem to understand either in general.
The average player doesn't care about who's managing the Discord or balancing the damage numbers, but they do care, and they do notice when somebody from that team acts like the audience is beneath them. When you push players away, don't be surprised when they don't come back. Games are already expensive. Don't make players pay for your ego, too.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that these companies underestimate how many people use social media, which makes a lot of sense seeing how much they spend on their marketing budgets. But it doesn't take a whole lot to come across a stray quote or a headline. You don't have to be watching videos like this. If you are remotely interested in Borderlands,
the entire idea that everybody now, like, and also, like, think about the level of disrespect that these companies are exhibiting by even using this as an argument. It's okay for us to sell a bad product that's discussed online in depth about it being negative and problematic because we have an army of retards that are going to see a commercial for it on TV and buy it anyway. What a shitty business model. Like, really, I mean, what a cynical, shitty business model that is.
There's a good chance that you're going to be scrolling Twitter or Reddit or YouTube or whatever it might be, and you're going to see something, and all of a sudden somebody that had passing interest in something is going to pass entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as easy as that. Once negative sentiment starts, it is impossible to put out. It spreads fast.
It is possible to put it out, but it's really hard. It took Starforge probably 6 months to rebuild that trust, if not longer. Think about how long it took for CD Projekt Red, how long it took for No Man's Sky. You can rebuild the trust, and oftentimes the trust being rebuilt makes it stronger than it was in the beginning. But at the same time, like, From Software hasn't really ever needed to rebuild trust, and I think that people trust them and I think they're great. Same as Valve. So, like, you don't need to do that. Rebuilding requires making a good product. Yeah, and it costs a lot of money. It's better to maintain trust. It's cheaper. It's cheaper to maintain trust than to rebuild it.
Fast, hardcore fans, people making YouTube videos for Borderlands content, people that stream it and things like that, they might be able to brush it off, but the wider audience, no. The people that have been burned before, the people that are sitting on the fence, the people are wondering whether or not they're even going to be able to afford it, when something like this hits their feed, it just reinforces all of their most negative and worst assumptions possible. These developers are out of touch.
Every negative possible thing you can imagine is true.
The pricing is unjustified. And now here I am sitting here and seeing the CEO say that if I want to play their game, I need to dig deep to be able to be taken seriously.
Yeah, Jesus.
What really kills me is the complete lack of just living on earth when it comes to some of these executives. They cannot see anything past their own ego. You're sitting here telling me during a housing crisis, all this inflation, all these prices going up, you're trying to tell the common customer that we increased our prices, we increased our staff by 150 members, we increased our budget by more than twice the amount.
And you got to pay for it.
We're going to need you guys to be able to make that up for
Yep.
us. You overspent. You overstaffed. This is your problem.
You make a bad financial decision, and then you expect the customer to bail you out. That's not how it works.
But you want us to make that math work. No. Personally, I don't understand where all this optimism is coming from. Pitchford is acting like Borderlands is untouchable. But the way things have gone lately, you can only be certain that your real fans will be able to show up if you even have them. I am, for all intents and purposes, a diehard Borderlands fan. I want Borderlands 4 to be amazing because if it's good, I'll probably pour hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours into it.
That's a lot.
As somebody who grew up on Diablo and loves first-person shooters, this series has always felt like it was tailor-made for me. I love the build crafting, the endless loot, the tight gunplay, the class variety, and it's one of the best co-op experiences in all of gaming. When Borderlands is at its best, it plays like a co-op MMO with bite-sized storytelling.
That's awesome.
And it has some of the most creative combat loops that are out there. Sirens with their space magic, pet and turret classes, other characters serving as weapons platforms, guns that shoot guns, launch bees and scream at you, legendary drops that completely change your playstyle, true Vault Hunter mode, raid bosses, DLC that actually matters. And it's one of the last remaining franchises that hasn't thrown itself headfirst into live service hell. No battle passes, no seasonal resets, no login bonuses.
I mean, they're not going to do that at all with Borderlands 4. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it.
Or overpriced skin bundles, just a complete experience packed with content straight out of the gate with expansions that actually expand on something. In a lot of ways, Borderlands is a reminder of what games used to be before monetization warped the entire genre. But that's the thing. What Borderlands represents and what Borderlands has become are two completely different things. And what I don't think Gearbox has acknowledged or maybe hasn't realized is that Borderlands has a reputation for the few, not the many. On paper, this franchise is still giant. 93 million copies sold, a long list of mainline titles and spin-offs, massive brand recognition, but you zoom in and it starts to tell a different story. Borderlands 2 alone counts for 30 million of those sales. And just because a franchise has legacy doesn't mean that that audience is going to show up again. Look at Dragon Age: The Veilguard. That's a franchise that had critical acclaim, massive fan investment.
That's actually a really good example because Dragon Age Origins, I think, didn't it win Game of the Year whenever it came out? And like, did that help it whenever Dragon Age: The Veilguard came out? No, it was garbage. People hated
sales, but over the years, BioWare chipped away at the formula, changing the gameplay, shifting the tone, making thematic changes that didn't really sit all that well with players. By the time Veilguard rolled out, that reputation had already worn thin. The trailers didn't land, the tone felt off, and when it released, the audience didn't show up for it. It missed its sales targets, it didn't make its money back, and it didn't matter how loved Origins was. It only mattered how good Veilguard looked right now.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to guilt people into buying a game because they liked the game 12 years ago. I mean, especially not with all the bad press around it, too. It's not like it was only one bad thing about the game. There were like 10 bad things about it. Nothing about it was good. The combat looked like garbage. The graphics were garbage. The story looked weird. They had like weird woke stuff in it, too, that was alienating for people. Like, everybody thought it was bad.
Borderlands is not immune to that. Legacy can only get you so far when each new entry leaves a worse impression than the last. The pre-sequel was the first sign of this. It reused assets, leaned heavily on recycled systems, and told a side story that nobody asked for. It is still the worst-selling game in the series. Then came Borderlands 3, a mechanical leap forward that modernized the gameplay, selling 22 million copies, but it dropped the ball entirely when it came to writing and tone. I have a love-hate relationship with Borderlands 3. I love playing it, but I hate the fact that I'm playing that game specifically. The gameplay loop is incredible, but every time a character opens their mouth, I want to mute the game. They followed up one of gaming's most iconic villains, Handsome Jack, with 2 live-streaming space influencers narrating your every move. They leaned hard into this influencers thing, and even harder into the worst kind of millennial irony. Surface-level references, smug quips, and jokes less funny than watching The View. And probably the most damning part of the game.
That's one of the big issues, too, is that the writing is being done by millennials. Like, millennials have done irreparable damage to writing, and it cannot be overstated. Do you think the increasing price has anything to do with recouping money from the movie flop? No, because every studio's doing it.
They killed off beloved legacy characters and shoved new ones in your face like you were supposed to care, especially Ava. one of the most grating, self-important characters I've ever seen shoehorned into a major franchise.
Yeah.
The whole thing had this weird, forced female empowerment thing that was going on, but it was all corporate branding on top of these.
This is the problem, is that like everybody can tell when they're trying to push some like weird like women agenda or something like that. Like a lot of guys and like I think average people can tell. I think maybe they think they're being subtle about this, but if you're not even good at like if you can't even write good jokes, what do you think the chances are that you can write a good agenda? Well, you can't. And so people see what's going on and they realize they're playing a product that is fundamentally inauthentic. And that's why they stop having interest in it. It's a huge factor.
It just didn't land. It didn't work. It was bad. And the damage didn't end there. The backlash from Borderlands 3 carried directly into Tiny Tina's Wonderland, a game that should have been a slam dunk. Expanding on the franchise's most beloved DLCs and turning it into a full game should have meant something, but the reception was room temperature, safe, forgettable. By the time it launched in 2022, a lot of the longtime fans had already tapped out.
Yeah, I
the
never
writing
even
hadn't
played it.
matured, the humor hadn't evolved, and critically, the end game was just non-existent. DLC never fixed that issue, and for a series known for replayability, Wonderlands gave players very little reason to come back. So post the peak of Borderlands 2, you've already expended much of this franchise's reputation and have burned out longtime fans, but I don't even think winning back old fans is going to be Borderlands 4's biggest problem. The issue that they're going to be running into is the damage that's been done to the brand, because Borderlands isn't just competing.
This is one of the big issues that a lot of people don't understand with branding, is that whenever a company's brand is damaged, it's something that happens over time. It doesn't happen like immediately. It's not like, oh, instantaneously the brand is awful and everybody hates this game. No, or this product. No, it happens like the first product that comes out that's bad, a lot of people can usually forgive that. But then whenever it's the second one and the third one, that's whenever people really start to lose interest. It's gradual. Yeah, that's what I think happened with Bungie. It's what happened with Blizzard. And it's what's happened with a lot of studios. And I think if Elder Scrolls 6 is bad, it's going to happen to Bethesda as well.
With other games, it's competing with its own reputation. The Borderlands movie bombed catastrophically, pulling in just $18 million on a $110 million budget.
Jesus.
Miscast, tone deaf, utterly disconnected from what made this series special. And for a lot of people, that's their first exposure that they've had to this franchise in years. Not the games, the flop. Then there's Take-Two's recent update to their end-user license agreement, a move so anti-consumer that it sparked a review bombing campaign across all of their franchises. Modding, bannable. VPN use, bannable. Exploits in a single-player game, bannable. Class action.
Why would anybody give a fuck about exploiting in a single-player game? How does that benefit the customer in any way to ban people for exploiting in a single-player game? Why? It's who cares? You bought the game, they've got your money. It like Elden Ring has a mod that turns you into a jet engine, and you can blow everything up as not a jet engine, sorry, a fighter jet, and you can go around and blow everything up instantly, and somehow that's totally fine.
Lawsuits? Wait,
so what happened?
Data harvesting, front and center. Meanwhile, their competition hasn't just caught up, it's already passed them. Deep Rock Galactic, Remnant 2, Helldivers 2, Risk of Rain 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, Rust, Lethal Company. The co-op space is stacked right now. Some of these games are cheaper, some of them are free, and most of them feel fresher and more ambitious than what Borderlands has been offering lately. All of this leading up to the real question, who is this game even for anymore? Because
it's for fat millennials that own at least 5 Funko Pops, that still watch Marvel movies.
People that grew up
That's
with
what
Borderlands
it's for.
2, they've grown up.
Everybody knows
it. 20s, 30s, or 40s now. They have kids, careers, limited time, and they're not lining up to drop $80 on a franchise they used to love just because it
and
says
this is another, he actually brings up a really good point here. This is something I don't really talk about enough, is that when you're a guy and you have, like, let's even if you have a lot of money, buying a video game that you're going to play for 1,000 hours because you play video games all day has a higher value add for you than buying a video game that you can play for 3 hours on Saturday and maybe a half hour or an hour a couple of times on a week. And so that's another big issue, is that as people, get older and their priorities change, what happens is that now that value is no longer fully realized.
it's back. They want value. They want trust. And they're not seeing either. And
Keep it
Gen
that
Z
way.
players, they didn't grow up on Borderlands 2. They came up through Fortnite, Minecraft,
Yeah.
Roblox, games that speak an entirely different language. Their first impressions likely came from Borderlands 3, Wonderlands, or the dumpster fire of
The
the
movie, yeah, exactly.
None of that reflects Borderlands at its peak, and none of it really sells the fantasy. And that's what makes this also risky, because legacy players aren't impressed, and new
And also,
audience.
I feel like the graphics haven't really improved. Like, I think that there's a way to do this graphical style that's way cleaner and better than what they're doing. And how they're handling this is very, very mediocre. It's literally the same. Yeah. It's like you should, like, why, like, for example, like Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring are the same style, but they just keep getting better. Where it's like when I look at Borderlands 4 and I compare it to what Borderlands 2 looked like, it's basically the same thing.
Audiences never cared in the first
crazy?
place, then who's going to be left to rally around this game? 6 years have passed since Borderlands 3. That's long enough for a generation of players to move on and forget or form new habits. And the longer that you're gone without momentum, or in the case of Borderlands, killing your own momentum,
Yeah.
the harder it is to claw back relevance. You need every advantage that you can get. You need a pitch that resonates beyond your core audience. But instead, Pitchford's comments feels like he's betting
Well,
on...
he does have a pitch that resonates beyond his core audience. It's resonated with everybody, and everybody's come together to say that he's a retard. So it's resonated with the entire internet. It worked.
on legacy, like Borderlands, is still a guaranteed seller, and it's not. And even if longtime fans do return,
Guaranteed
telling them
seller.
to find a way to pay $80 is a hell of a tone to strike. It does not build trust, it builds resentment. It makes the franchise sound like it's still stuck in 2012, riding on the high of Handsome Jack
Nothing is ever guaranteed.
and nostalgia, but that world is gone. This
Yep.
is a different industry, a different audience, a different world, and Borderlands doesn't get to act like it's the only game in town anymore. So yeah, while Pitchford might think that real fans are going to find a way, the reality is some of them won't, some of them didn't, some of them are going to see the price, they're going to remember the quote, the jokes, the movie, and they're just going to walk away, because even the most loyal players eventually stop showing up when the brand they loved stopped speaking to them. As
That's
a
what happened with WoW. Is that over time people just lost interest with the brand, and I think that's what happened with Overwatch as well. Is that, like, if you mismanage a brand, it doesn't die overnight, but it dies over 3 or 5 years, and it is not a fiery, like, they don't burn out, they fade away, and it's sad.
Borderlands
Look at
fan,
Halo.
this hurts
Halo's
to
a
say,
great
but
example
everything
of that.
past Borderlands
Yeah.
2 has not aged well. Not at all. In fact, the writing, the characters, the themes that they use, the jokes that they use, it's cringe. And cringe is not going to move copies.
No.
And that's one of the reasons why the narrative lead for Borderlands 4 came forward and said, hey, this game's going to be much more darker. It's going to be much more grounded. It's going to be a little bit more serious. And I hope that's the direction that they go in. Because people's opinions are based off of their first impressions.
Yeah.
And this series has not done a good job with first impressions for quite a few
This
years.
is the reason why, is that, like, I mean, if you can't even manage to make a good first impression, what are the odds you can make a good game? Really? Judge a book by its cover? Absolutely. If you can't even manage to make a cover look good, bro, you do not have your shit together.
years.
Come on.
I want this game to be
Really?
good. God, do I want this game to be good. But
You gonna play it when it comes
Gearbox
out?
does
Yeah, of
not
course.
have a leg to stand on when talking about betting on fan loyalty. Because you've burned that for the last decade. Real fans are going to find a way.
Real fans are going to spend $80 on this
I don't
bullshit.
think that they understand how far their words carry.
Yep.
Pitchford obviously has a lot of confidence in this game, and I think that's really important to have. You want to be confident about the game that you're making.
Sure.
You need to lead with that. Why wouldn't you just say, I don't control the price, but whatever that price is, I can promise you that we will deliver on it. That's all you would need to say.
He's actually right. That's 1,000 That's 1,000 times better to say it. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why didn't you just say that?
In most cases, most people would just move on. You know, Borderlands does have value. It has something that we just don't really see a whole lot anymore, which is it is a self-contained price in most cases.
Yeah.
I don't think the game's going to have any microtransactions. It might have a season pass, but that's all going to be for DLC. It's basically a
We'll
relic
see about that.
captured in time. And that's something we're celebrating. How did you not lead with that? Why would you not lead with that? Why aren't you using that in your marketing? Why aren't you parading that around on Twitter and on social media and saying we don't have microtransactions? Remember when
exactly.
Borderlands, or no, Larian Studios had on Baldur's Gate 3's website
that they don't
the little
have
FAQ that says we believe in having a self-contained experience and no microtransactions and delivering on the price.
Yes, I distinctly remember reading that on stream and being like, oh yeah, true, dude, based. Oh wow, I can't wait to play this game. Never played it, by the way.
Product or whatever it says, that went viral. An FAQ in the bottom of the website went viral.
I bought the game.
Why aren't you doing that? Do these companies really not know how the internet works? I don't think they do. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video.
I think they
did enjoy the video. Like the video, share the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Peace.
I actually think that's exactly what it is. I think that they don't understand the internet. They don't understand these issues. And I think especially for guys that are older, like around Randy's age, they don't really understand a lot of the struggles that the average video game age player has. And so for them, these things seem normal, but they're actually extremely tone deaf, right? Like, that's really what I think is happening. There's the video right there. Give it a like. I completely agree with this, by the way. $80 for a fucking video game like this. Again, I would have no problem paying $80 for an insanely good game, but we're not talking about an insanely good game. We're talking about this bullshit instead, right? And so I think that's a very big difference. Apparently, there's some big Night Rain event. Like, is this true? Are they doing a Night Rain event? I have no idea. Viewers high to low. Night Rain, oh, it's just a tournament. Okay, never mind. I thought there was something that was happening. And yeah, the drop nice on YouTube. Well, no, I'm not interested in watching streamers play the game. I don't give a shit about that. Like, I was curious if there was something that was actually happening that mattered. But no, okay. Yeah, who cares? And so when I switch to, yeah, I'm going to play that. I'm going to play it tomorrow anyway. I just wanted to double check. But before I move on, I want to say that, like, in general, this is exactly the way that I feel about this too, is that the fact is that, like, a lot of people nowadays just simply don't have that much disposable income. And on top of that, there are so many other things that are eating into your income. And on top of that, you usually have, because you've grown up with these games, you usually have way less things that you have, like, way less time that you have to spend playing the game. So a value proposition, $80 for 150 hours is way better than $80 for 50 hours. That's it. Yeah, child support. Yeah, clearly, right? I don't have enough disposable income. Yeah, and I think that people don't really understand how much, like, wages and things like this haven't increased. And that's been a huge problem. So I need to do another Expedition 33 video. Yeah, I know. That game is done very well. And at $50, too. I'll be right back. Give me a second. A strong enough fan base to carry them? Yeah, I think Borderlands 4 will probably make its money back, but the next one won't if it's bad. I'll be right back.